the Marlins and Blue Jays make a blockbuster offseason trade. I'll give you the particulars and tell you what I think needs to happen for the Blue Jays to deem this trade a success. Hey everybody, it's Paulie. Welcome back to This Week in Red, where we're talking all things Red Sox and Major League Baseball. So the Marlins and Blue Jays have certainly kicked off baseball's hot stove winter season with a big trade that will really affect the future of both teams right away. The Blue Jays basically sending half of their top-tier farm system, led by Henderson Alvarez, a pitcher that was in the Toronto rotation this year, over to the Marlins for basically half of Florida's lineup and starting pitching staff. The Blue Jays will receive from the Marlins Josh Johnson, who is a #1 starter, no question if he's healthy, Mark Buehrle, a gritty veteran pitcher, John Buck, their catcher, Emilio Bonifacio, their second baseman, and a very good speed-type infielder, and most of all, surprisingly, Jose Reyes goes from the Marlins to the Blue Jays, and that is the big piece in this trade that I think is the key to it. Now, as much as the Blue Jays are going to need Josh Johnson to be an all-star caliber pitcher, something that he was before he got Tommy John surgery, this will now be his second year back after the surgery, and that's usually when guys who've had this surgery really come back and take off and really establish themselves post-surgery as being dominant pitchers. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Johnson. And Buehrle's going to give you quality innings in the middle of that rotation. He's a gritty guy. He'll definitely be a solid pitcher. You got to figure for the Blue Jays. But the big key here is Reyes, and he's the biggest key to the whole trade. It's very surprising that the Blue Jays would bring this guy in, only because he's a player that throughout his history, he's had a lot of injuries, and all those injuries are related to his legs. Hamstring problems, calf problems, you name it. Well, the big deal here is that the Blue Jays play their home games on artificial turf. So now you're going to put Reyes, who's a speed player, on artificial turf for 81 games with his injury history. That's a big risk that the Blue Jays are taking. But you know what? The Blue Jays see an opportunity here. They see the American League East is going to probably be a little bit down in 2013. They see the Yankees aging. They see the Red Sox in disarray. They see the Orioles as possibly a one-year wonder. And they see the Rays, although they have very good young starting pitching, as a team that needs to score runs in order to win games. And I think the Blue Jays look at them and say, I'm not sure their lineup is as strong as it could be. So I think the Blue Jays, with this trade, are looking at a 1 to 2 year window where they can maximize the value of these veteran players that they've brought in, regardless of the money. They know that money is probably going to be an albatross for them down the road. But for the next year or two, I think the Blue Jays, even though they don't have a manager yet, I think their GM, Alex Anthopoulos, looks at this division and says, this could be ours for the taking this year. Let's jump on this. But the bottom line is they're going to need Reyes to be a dynamic player. The player that he was with the Mets in the year before he left. If they end up with the Jose Reyes, who has a lot of leg and injury problems with his legs, and he's on the disabled list 2 or 3 times this season, it's going to be a bad trade for the Blue Jays, even if the pitchers pitch well. So I think it's a good trade for the Blue Jays. I think it's a good opportunity for them to pounce on a division that's down right now. I think it's a good move, and it's going to be very interesting to see, particularly after they hire a manager, what kind of team the Blue Jays are going to be this year. And I think they're definitely going to be a factor, at least for this year, in the American League East. But your thoughts out there. Do you like this first big trade of the offseason? And who do you favor as being the winner of the trade early on? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and tell all your friends about This Week in Red.